Well, hello, we're going to try this. I thought I'd show you, I'm making some bread today, so I thought I'd show you sort of, how it goes. This is the leaven that I created, from the starter last night. It's looking good, and it's all puffy and ready to go. So that's what we're going to start with, and I'm just going to do little clips to show you, part of the process. Okay, I've got 700 grams of water in this metal bowl, and I need to put 200 grams of the leaven in. So let's see how nice and light this is. There's a float test, so if it doesn't float, it's not ready, but this is going to float. So that's a little too much. I'm just going to take a little bit out. Usually don't do too much, but then the rest you can use to refresh the leaven. And okay, close enough for jazz. All right, the next step is going to be putting in 900 grams of all-purpose or bread flour, and then 100 grams of wheat flour, and then I'll show you me mixing it. Okay, you see I've got it just poured in, and I just start mixing by hand, and I would reckon 5 minutes or so, just sort of mixing it all together till it's well blended. Okay, it's more like 2 minutes, but you see it's all kind of blended together. Now there are a couple tools that you need that you really can't do without. One is a plastic spatula, just like that. And the other is a pastry knife. I think that's what you call it. Anyways, like this. This we'll use to shape and stuff. This is useful for just scraping out the bowl, making sure that all the flour is incorporated. So we'll do that. Okay, that's just a couple minutes, and we're just making sure it's all sort of together and the bottom is clean. And the next step is just to let it rest for 20 minutes before you put in the salt, and then just let it, after that it's just going to be the bulk rise. So that's it. Okay, so the next step is rest about 20 minutes, and we're going to put, the recipe calls for 20 grams of salt. I put 28 grams, so I like a little saltier. I mean, it doesn't really taste salty. And then 50 grams of flour, or water additionally. And then, again, it's just sort of squishing it together. Now, you hear the lovely squishy sound. It's going to break down and sort of, in the water. You kind of see it's sort of breaking apart. It will come back together again. Just keep squishing and squishing and squishing, and I don't know, it'll take a couple minutes to break or integrate the water, break down, and then come back together again. Just squish, squish, squish. And okay, I'll be back. Okay, so it's pretty well integrated again. Again, this is a pretty wet dough as far as bread making goes. But it does, when we get to forming it, does make it a little difficult if you're not used to it. But you just practice, and I'll show you how to do that. The next step is to put it in they like to say a glass bowl, so you can see the sort of bubbles on the side when it starts to rise. With my French bread, I don't use it because I don't have one big enough, but so it just goes in there. Cover up. Sometimes I'll put it, if it's not warm enough, I'll put it in the oven and just turn the light on. But then every half hour you turn it, and that's for 3 to 4 hours, sort of depending how warm it gets and how much time, what your timing is. but I'll show you how to do that in about half an hour. This is kind of the easy part. Every half hour or so, just you give it a turn, and what that means is this. So wet your hands so it don't all stick together, and then just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll just cover it back up. And that's you do that, I don't know, every half hour for 3 to 4 hours. And after that process is done, I'll tape that. Okay. Not sure how much of that you saw. Okay, I don't know if you can see, there's some bubbles there. If you thump it, it feels a little hollow, or something. So it seems about ready. It's been about 3.5 hours. I might leave it in a little longer, but I really wanted to get going, so we're going to do this. Whoops, hold on. Need flour. All right. So this is a unfloured surface. At this point, he suggests not incorporating, try to incorporate less flour than you, the less flour you incorporate, the better. So we're getting this out, and you see it's quite a soft dough for bread, but there we are. And this is probably the tricky part, and sometimes I get a little fraught because I try to do it quickly, but you want to be firm. So just a sprinkling on the outside. And at this point, you want to take your pastry knife and turn it over. And now at this point, you want to shape it. So this is the initial shaping. There are two phases. This is the initial shaping, and your blade will get sticky, and so will your hands. You got to keep the and it will stick to the surface. So you got to keep working it. And you see it's so soft that it can be a little difficult to work. But the idea is to get it going in a circle. Yeah. And just, it should stick on the bottom a little bit. There we go. Now it's working. So it should stick on the bottom a little bit because that's where the surface tension develops. Okay, so we're going to now move to the second one. Again, we've got some little flour on the top still. Sometimes I try just doing it, working with the hands, sometimes with a blade, sometimes with both. But again, you're just working it, turning it, and so the sticking to the surface creates that surface tension. So you've got two balls, two round loaves, and that's the way they're gonna bake. And now at this point, you want to rest them about 20 minutes covered so they don't crust over. And we'll come back for the final shaping in about 20 minutes.